Make a Path presents Let's Talk. Alright guys, welcome to Make a Path Presents. My name is Ronnie Hayes. I wasn't going to do a video about the Point Break remake. However, a light bulb went off and I said, you know what? I'm going to run this by some fans. So, let's talk. The Point Break remake. First off, a little bit of backstory. Just real quick, so hang in there. Years ago when I found out that I had a 5-month-old daughter and I was going to be taking care of her all by myself, I said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to sell my Blu-ray collection because I want a chunk of extra money, all the extra money I can have at my disposal. I built her a whole huge grand nursery. It was the shit. I have to tell you, I used to walk in there and be like, yeah, that was worth it. Blu-rays was my only thing. Ever since I was little, movie collections, that was my thing. I kept a handful of Blu-ray movies. Point Break was one of them. That's just giving you a little bit of look into how much I love this movie. Because it has nostalgia. I grew up watching this movie, and it's one of those movies that, as a young kid, you're like, yeah, that's why I want to do filmmaking, acting, directing, writing, producing, anything, because of movies like this. There's something special about a movie like this. Now, is this going to blow your mind? Are you going to walk out of the theater and become a new person? Is it going to change you? No. It is something special. You'll never get that back. I don't care who does a remake. Now, with that said, I do want a remake to be successful. I love remakes. I hate them because they seem to always screw them up. What I just thought of that actually compelled me to turn on the camera and to talk about Point Break is what I believe they should have done with a remake. Don't do it. Do not do a remake of Point Break. Do a sequel. How do you do a sequel, you ask? Some of this might sound stupid. And since this is a concept, some of this I might eventually change. If, let's say, I was working on the project, I might even change because later on I'll see that it doesn't fit. Now, my initial concept, and this is just one concept that came to me, would be, let's say the person who's playing Bodhi in the sequel, he is not Bodhi. He's just using his name. It's kind of like Princess, another movie I kept as well, and I grew up with that. The guy who was the pirate, so to speak, he just used the name and he continued the legacy of the pirate. Pull from that and have this character know who Bodhi was. He looks up to him as a role model, the biggest role model in his life. And because of that, let's say he's 15, 16 when Bodhi goes missing. Let's say me and two people are talking about my Point Break idea for the remake. I say it should be a sequel. And I'm sitting here telling my friends, no, listen, do you know at the end of the original Point Break how you have Utah and Brody talking right before he's going to get arrested? And they show a quick scene of the cops getting ready and they're moving all the bystanders who are watching everything. They're moving them back, preparing to come and storm the beach and take Brody away to jail. And Utah lets Brody go into the ocean. Bodhi go into the ocean, and he dies from that point on, and that's when the story ends, and we don't really know if his body got lost, or we don't know what happened with Bodhi's legend and everything like that, and I'm like, well, let's make a sequel of Point Break, and have the beginning of the sequel start with a kid who's being ushered back, watching this scene unfold, and the cops are saying, get back, and everything's from this kid's point of view, and there's something there that's so magnetic, and he watches him unhandcuff Bodhi, and Bodhi goes off in the ocean, and the kid from that point in time studies his newspaper clippings and articles and stories, and maybe somebody writes a book, maybe Utah himself writes a book, which would be awesome, you know, and the kid studies and reads the books and takes Bodhi's ideology and runs with it and creates more and expands and keeps Bodhi's legacy alive. If you watch my Point Break video, you'll understand what I'm saying. Now, if I'm coming up with those ideas and my friend is like, hey, no, that's fucking stupid, this is better, no, do this, I'm not going to immediately be like, oh, damn, now I'm going to go in the corner and cry. No, it's like, okay, that was stupid, well, why was it stupid? Well, let's see how we can fix this, correct this, change this a little bit. And the kid grows up, and as he's growing up, he builds a little group with him, a little gang with him. Some of them might even take the names of some of Bodhi's crew as aliases. Now, this does something for the story. This gives them names to use, but it also gives them cover to stay out of the eyes of the law. Because if they're using fake names, they're going to be harder to track down. The idea is to carry on Bodhi's legacy, keep him still alive, so to speak. Yet they tweak his legacy, because if you see in this one, they have like a Robin Hood aspect to them. They steal from the rich, give to the poor. At least that's what it feels like. So they can kind of expand on Bodhi's ideologies and his philosophies and run with it a little more. And even going with the extreme sport aspect, I would give it a silly name, but make a great movie out of it. Just simply call it Point Break Extreme. It sounds silly, I'll even admit. However, if you get a really great movie, it's not going to matter if the name's just a little bit silly. And you have a little leniency to use a silly name because the original Point Break was so fucking good. I think this movie's going to be shit, but I'm going to watch it, the remake, just because I'm a fan of the original and I want it to be good. I'm just, please, be good. Even just a little bit. Because I don't want the Point Break franchise to be tainted by a really shitty remake that Hollywood did just to rake in some money. Because that is a trend in Hollywood. That is real. That's not a myth. It's not a conspiracy. People will take a movie, they'll make it even though it's not as good as it could be, just to draw in money. If they get enough money, they reboot, restart, refresh a franchise. That's the end goal. Sell a couple movie tickets, sell some t-shirts, sell some mugs, this, that, and a third. Get some merchandise out there. They have already won, even though in the fans' eyes and the critics' eyes, they lost. It's a win-win situation for Hollywood, and they cash in on that. If this movie is just okay, they might make enough money based off of the name, based off of the brand, to be able to do a sequel. There's movies out there that suck, that got, 6 sequels. In my eyes, they're absolutely horrendous. However, they have fans who like that kind of movie. So this could turn into the next, Fast and Furious. Even though we all know Fast and Furious is basically a Point Break original ripoff. That's common knowledge by now. Now, playing with some concepts and some ideas, let's say this is the writer's room, or the concept room. I think it would be awesome, an awesome image, to start Point Break Extreme out with Keanu Reeves picking up a newspaper. He's aged a few years, obviously, and he notices that Bodhi is back, or Bodhi rides again. Let's say that's the title. And he's immediately like, what is this? And he's haunted now. Because let's just say, I don't know if it was ever spelled out in Point Break in the end. I believe it wasn't, personally. But they never find Bodhi's body. That's the myth of Bodhi. So he could look at that newspaper and realize, is he out there? Did he come back? Did he go away and come back? No, this isn't the case. So Keanu could call a friend of his and say, hey, take one of your young guys, your top guys, look into this. I don't believe Bodhi's back. I think he's dead. But just look into this because there's too much coincidence here. Something is in the mix. Something's not right. And we can use that to fuel the next Point Break mission with the new guy. And take someone who's not Keanu Reeves. You can see that they went with somebody who's a blonde version of Keanu Reeves. They went with somebody who is more Keanu Reeves than somebody who's not. That is completely clear. You can tell just by looking at the very little dialogue they put in the trailer. And that's also a red flag. There's such little actual back and forth, and what we do see sucks. Come on. What we do see is horrible. Everybody was making fun of that part where he falls off the cliff. That was just horrendous. Alright, listen, I'll be honest with you, I'm not even sure I'm gonna upload this video. I kinda do, because I want some other Point Break fans to kick back some ideas and opinions of what they have on the remake or what they think they should have done. I still firmly believe that they should have explored more of the option of keeping the legend of Bodhi alive. Because not only does that show respect for the character in the original Point Break, but it also shows some sort of respect or a symbolism of respect for the actor, for Patrick Swayze, rest in peace, keeping his legend alive. You know what I mean? In a nice way. It feels right to me as a fan and as somebody who looked at it from a filmmaking perspective. It just feels so right to not do it that way. And if you trim everything else I'm talking about and come away with the simple fact that it shouldn't be a remake, it should be a sequel, even with a silly title, Point Break Extreme, although you could play with that. You know, play around, come up with a title you think is awesome. Anyway, the only thing I think they should have stuck with the concept is keeping the legend of Bodhi alive. I just love that. I'm in love with that idea so much, and I really wish they would have went with that. I'm sure somebody would have thought about it. You have all these smart people in Hollywood, I'm hoping. I'm hoping somebody would have pitched that idea. If somebody did pitch it and somebody shot it down, you failed miserably. Alright, fans, let me know what you think. That's all I personally got. I'm done talking. It's your turn. Subscribe now.